Let's talk to Joanna Bell, who is here, political journalist, who's going to run through some of the stories for us. We've got to start off, Joanna, with this ridiculous nonsense about women and whether or not we need to have a court case to determine what a woman is. Apparently, the Scottish government is involved because they think that there are many different ways of being a woman, and the court will have to decide which is the real truth.
Well, I just done a story in Ireland where they passed the criminal justice bill in which the European Union brought in, where Ireland now recognises 72 genders.
No, brilliant.
So I'm not holding out much hope that Scotland will have some common sense and say there's only really 2 genders, and that people, you know, can decide if they want to go through the gender reassignment, but, you know, they should still remain what their biological sex is.
Well, it seems pretty straightforward to me, doesn't it? I mean, a feminist group for women in Scotland, apparently it's called FWS, they're going to argue that trans women should not be able to fill roles meant for biological women under legislation designed to ensure equal numbers of men and women on company boards. It seems to me what we've done here is we've created a situation where we have to have equality on, you know, company boards of directors. So because we've said there have to be 50-50 and therefore women have to be on those boards, which we don't have to do, by the way, we've now got ourselves into a ridiculous situation where trans women are going, well, we should be counted as women so that we can get on the boards of companies. It's completely bonkers.
Well, it's absolutely bonkers, and it's just another way to erase women. I mean, I read a story the other day about how police are, you know, transgender police are going to be allowed to strip search.
Yes. Women. Yeah, we did that this morning as well. Know, it's bonkers, isn't it?
It's absolutely bonkers. And I hope that, you know, there is common sense and that they don't vote for this. I mean, I'm actually a member of a spa right now, and it's a ladies' spa.
Right.
And the other day I saw a transgender man walking around the spa, and there's women walking around naked.
Right.
And it's absolutely ridiculous. And I spoke to the lady at the reception, and she said we have to let them in, regardless of whether they're post-op or pre-op.
That's
so
madness. Anybody
can just decide whether you know, you could turn up.
So I could turn up and go, I've identified today as Michelle, and I'm just going to wander about naked into the women's spa.
Well, exactly. And the lady said as long as they're not, you know, making a nuisance of themselves, they're allowed to sit there post-op.
Right.
So you could literally go into the women's spa tomorrow, Mike, and sit with us and say, you're Michelle.
It's bonkers. It's just, I don't know where the world went wrong, but it's just been going wrong ever since. It's absolutely ridiculous. And Julie Bindell's got a piece in the Mail today saying our sex risks being obliterated. Because, you know, I've got a daughter, I've got, you know, I had a mother, I've got a sister. You know, you women are women. It's as simple as that. Sorry, I mean, you know, you need to be protected, as do, I suppose, men in the same way. But, you know, it's the way that we've suddenly found ourselves in this morass of madness seems to me to be ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to be labelled a TERF, because I do think there are people out there who, you know, for whatever reason feel like they're living in the wrong body. But I don't think that should be enough of a reason to erase women's rights.
Yeah. Well, they can be living in the wrong body. Doesn't mean they can enter the wrong club or spa, as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly.
Let's talk about Keir Starmer, because this petition that's been started at the weekend by a man who runs a pub, he was on with Julia Hartley-Brewer yesterday, has now reached about 2.4 million. He was talking, or 2.5 million, sorry. He was talking yesterday to 2 former children's TV presenters on This Morning on ITV. Here's what he had to say.
Look, I remind myself that very many people didn't vote Labour at the last election.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that many of them want a rerun. That isn't how our system works. There would be plenty of people who didn't want us in the first place. So, look, what I focus is the decisions that I have to make every day. And it's a bit like opposition.
But surely you want us, the public, to trust you, to like you, to think he's the man for the job, he's doing what he needs to do. Your approval rating is lower than Nigel Farage's right now.
The thing is, if you make your mind up, as I have done, that we're going to do the difficult things first, then I think it's inevitable that people do feel they're difficult decisions. I mean, I understand that.
You keep saying difficult decisions. They're not difficult decisions. They're wrong decisions. And also, isn't it interesting how ITV and the people that work there think that Nigel Farage is like the devil? You know, you're even more unpopular than Nigel Farage, as if that's some kind of, you know, horrendous thing that you have to admit to. You know, it's so out of touch, the mainstream media. It's an absolute joke, isn't it?
Well, exactly. I mean, look, I think if there was, in the unlikely event that there was another election, I really do think that people would vote for reform. And, you know, that might end up in a coalition. But, I mean, you know, I think Keir should be embarrassed that Andy Peters was castigating him live on television. He didn't seem at all fazed by, you know, how he, you know, was confronted. And he actually looked very relaxed and a little bit tanned from his trip to Rio. He should have the weight of the world on his shoulders as the Prime Minister. You know, the country is going through a terrible time right now. And he just looks as if, you know, he hasn't got a care in the world. And we want our politicians to look like they have the weight of the world on their shoulders. We want to see it etched on their face. But, you know, he just doesn't look fazed by anything.
But do you not think that might be a deliberate scenario, though? Because up until yesterday, when he appeared on ITV, a lot of people had said to me, you know, Keir Starmer's aged about 20 years since he's been in office, and his hair's getting greyer and it's getting more, you know, ridiculous looking. He looks more like Max Headroom every day. And I wonder whether he decided to sort of go on ITV, sort of soft soap interview with the people from this morning. As I say, they're not exactly, you know, it's not exactly Frost Nixon, is it? And basically he's going to go, oh, you know, look at how happy I am. I'm really enjoying it, because people are probably saying inside of Downing Street, you look like you're not enjoying it. For God's sake, look as if you're enjoying it, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Well, I really don't see it that way. I think, you know, he's waited this length of time to get into government, and now he's got there, and I think he's enjoying the spoils, as you've seen with his wife and all the freebies they're taking, Taylor Swift. I think he's having the time of his life, and I don't think that he is in any way under any pressure from the scrutiny he's receiving. Because, you know, why is he not making changes? Why is he taxing everybody except the public sector? You know, they're the only ones that are benefiting from his government.
Yeah. No, true. I mean, he's on the front pages as well today, talking about working and getting people back to work. We're supposed to be having, I think, an announcement this afternoon from Liz Kendall, who is, of course, the Work and Pension Secretary, about getting people who are on welfare back to work. Keir Starmer's on the front page of the Times today saying Britain simply isn't working. Bosses must get better at keeping the long-term sick in their jobs. I mean, you know, you're much younger than I am, Joe, and I don't know whether you've ever experienced the workplace where people get sick for long periods of time and don't come back into work. I mean, I've been working in the media all my life. It used to be a much more, shall we say, difficult place to work, because you just didn't take time off. Nobody did. You know, you went out and got absolutely ripped up at lunchtime. You came back into work. You got ripped up in the evening. You got ripped up at the weekend, and you never thought of ringing in and going, "Oh, I'm actually not feeling very well," because you basically didn't feel very well most of the time. But many people now are off work because they're anxious, because they feel like they don't want to come into work on a Monday or a Friday. You know, it's a problem, isn't it?
Well, it's a big problem, but, you know, at the end of the day, I think that, you know, if people are sick, then, you know, they really shouldn't be working if they're genuinely sick. I mean, working in the media,
that's the question.
Long-term sick.
That's the question. I mean, lots of people are genuinely long-term sick, and the belief is that many of them are actually fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe they're not being given enough incentives to stay and work. People are becoming lazy. You know, the whole situation is maybe the social welfare is too good. Maybe it's easier to stay off sick. Maybe there's not enough progress in jobs. Maybe the jobs market is stagnated and people are becoming, you know, a little bit despondent by the whole situation. I mean, the economy has stagnated. Everybody's been taxed. You know, there's no pay rises for anybody. So, you know, then you had the pandemic where everybody realized they could work from home. I mean, I'm not sure what the solution is to people who want to stay at home sick. I mean, I guess maybe the employers should take a tough stance, but then they'll get sued. So I really don't know what the solution.
Yeah.
What's your solution?
I don't think. Well, my solution. Well, my solution would be if you don't want to come into work in the office because you've got anxiety, then you're fired. That'd be my solution. The end.
Well, but then they'll get sued. You know, in this day and age,
they wouldn't.
people.
They'd have to, because then they'd have to prove that they had anxiety, and a lot of them wouldn't be able to do that. So actually, and they couldn't afford the lawsuit anyway. So at the end of the day, they'd probably come into work. You know, you'd be surprised. I mean, I've had people in the past working for me who were told that, you know, you can have 3 months off on full pay. After that, you're on half pay. Funnily enough, they've recovered from their anxiety after 3 months. You know?
Well, you know, when you work in the media, things don't work that way. There's so many people chomping at the bit to get jobs in that particular sector that, you know, everybody comes into work. But I guess if you were in a different organization, there might not be that pressure to stay in work all the time because, you know, the jobs are not really desirable.
Yes, I mean, that may well be. One final story for you, which is my favourite story of the day. Government has pledged millions in legal aid to clear the asylum backlog. Basically, they've told, ministers have told the legal aid business that, you know, we're going to have to hire loads more lawyers to get loads more people through the asylum system. We're basically going to give them all asylum. We're not going to challenge them really at all. But legal aid budgets are going to bulge with more public money, and more illegal asylum seekers are going to end up finding themselves settling here because they'll be given the status to stay.
This is an insane. I mean, what they're cutting the people that live here and pay taxes and giving our taxes to people who have never paid tax in this country and giving them homes. Our NHS is bulging, you know, and more people are coming into the country. I think we should be trying to stop the flow of people coming into the country and not give them legal aid to stay in the country, because we really need to have more checks on the people that are coming in. I mean, who are these people? Like, which countries are they coming from?
Well, it's a very good question. I mean, we know roughly which countries they're coming from, mostly, but still very, very difficult to judge. Listen, Joanna, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Joanna Bell, political journalist there, with a rundown of some of the big stories of the day today.